Hey guys, it's Big Bertie. Now it's been about 3 months since my last YouTube video and around 8 months since my last Monster in My Pocket video where I shared with you my re-released Series 2 boxed figures. However, I'm back with a bang today because I'm going to share with you and talk about the top 5 rarest figures from Series 1, the neon release of Monster in My Pocket. Now I get asked lots and lots of questions about rarity for Series 1, either through my Facebook group, Monster in My Pocket, the Mint Market. If you're not a member, check it out on Facebook, or through my Instagram page at Big Bertie. So in an attempt to pull together some conclusions about rarity, I've enlisted the help of some of the biggest Monster in My Pocket collectors from around the world, in fact, who are part of my Mint Market group on Facebook. And using my own experiences of collecting a complete neon set, alongside their opinions and anecdotes, I've put together a top 5 list that I'm going to share with you today. Now before I start, I just want to talk about and make clear that this is not going to include any of the standard release colours from the very first release of Series 1. And for those of you that are unsure, that includes the yellow, red, olive green and purple colours, because in those colours there's no real rarity as such. I know that red, Callie and Catoblepus, and yellow Callie and Catoblepus were from one of the Monster in My Pocket board games. Apart from that, there's no real rarity amongst them. Also, I'm not going to be including the Series 1 premium colours, for example pine green T-Rex or pink Cyclops, as they're in their own separate subsection of Series 1. And I'm also not going to be commenting on prices or values in this video. I don't think that's what this video is for. So let's get started with a few honourable mentions, and I'll put that there as a little stage to show the figures on. So these figures that I'm going to talk about first, they're not in the top 5, but they would certainly be in the top 10, and they deserve to be mentioned today. So we'll start off with neon green and neon yellow Behemoth. Now, one thing that really comes up with these two figures in particular is two theories that have been going around for a while with Monster in My Pocket. First of all, any of the first 24 of the 48 Series 1 figures that weren't released in a particular colour, so for example with Behemoth, that figure was never released in the colours of yellow or olive green. Any of the first 24 figures in the series that weren't released in one of the standard colours, it's quite often harder to come by that figure in its equivalent neon colour. So again, if I just explain to you, olive green Behemoth doesn't exist, hence why it's quite difficult to get hold of the neon green Behemoth. Standard yellow Behemoth doesn't exist, and again it's quite hard to get hold of the neon yellow Behemoth. And you can see here the colours might be a bit off on this video because I'm just shooting from an iPad, but we've got neon green and neon yellow. Now a second theory on top of the rarity to do with colours that weren't existing in the standard colours is the fact that most of these neons that I'm going to share with you today that are rare can usually be found and picked up a little bit easier when looking on eBay France. So you've got to search eBay France and be looking on that website to find these figures. And some of the collectors I know that are from France have had much easier time picking up some of these colours than myself, for example, that's in England, and other collectors from America or Canada. There's something about these figures showing up in France more than anywhere else. So if you want to seriously collect these sets, you need to be looking on eBay France. Also from time to time, eBay Germany is another place to look. So France is the main place to go for these. So again, starting with the neon green Behemoth and the neon yellow Behemoth, easily in the top 10 in terms of rarity. These are 25 point monsters, and if I asked 100 mint collectors what their favourite monsters were from childhood, a lot of them will probably say Behemoth. So a really popular sculpt, and if I just bring them a bit closer to the camera, you can see that these are 25 point monsters, difficult to come by in neon green and neon yellow, and as I said, they would make a top 10 but they're not going to be in my top 5. And one of the reasons for that is recently on eBay France there's been a handful of these selling. So some people might put these in their top 5, but for this list today these are just outside that list. So I'll move those out the way. Another figure that deserves an honourable mention and has been a real pain for some collectors, oddly enough, is this one. Neon red Medusa. When people are putting together their full sets of each of the neon colours, quite often this figure is one of the last ones they end up getting. And it's not an overly popular figure. It's not a powerful figure like Behemoth, which was worth 25 points in the game. This is a 10-point figure, so a 10-point monster. And quite unusually, most people thought that a lot of the rare Series 1 figures were the higher point monsters, the 25 pointers or the 20 pointers. This one just misses out on the top 5, but is certainly in the top 10 of rare figures to come across. Again, looking on eBay France, you might come across this, but in the time I was collecting, I only ever came across one, and that was this one. So Neon Red Medusa is certainly a hard figure to come across, a very uncommon figure. Next, and the last one in the honourable mention list, is a 20-point monster, Neon Green Jotun Troll. Now, the Jotun Troll, again, was quite a popular figure for collectors back in the day when they're children, and a lot of those children that are now adults still really like this figure. It isn't easy to come by any means and would easily make a top 10, but has just missed out on the top 5 places. If you have this figure, I'd love to know in the comments below where you got it from. Was it France? Was it Germany? Or did you pick it up from somewhere in England back in the day? Again, as I said before, a lot of these figures are predominantly found now in France, but not always. So please share in the comments below if you've got some of these in your collection. Now, before I go into the top 5, I need to say that a lot of this could be subjective in terms of the order of 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, but I would certainly say, without a shadow of doubt, after speaking to many collectors and looking at lots and lots of different forum posts, etc., that regardless of the order that you think they deserve to go in, they certainly have to be in the top 5, the most uncommon, the rarest to find, and the ones that most collectors end up having to find or search for a few years before they can complete their sets. So let's get started with number 5. Number 5 on my list is going to be the Neon Red Jotun Troll. Now, similarly to the Neon Green one, Jotun Troll in the standard colours doesn't exist in olive green or red. And as I said before, a lot of figures that don't exist in those standard colours are harder to come by in the neon colours. But having collected these myself, and as I said, spoken to lots of different collectors from around the world, I think the neon red is slightly harder to come by most times throughout the years than the neon green version. So this 20-point monster, this neon red Jotun Troll, is going to go into the number 5 position. Again, if you've got this in your collection, let me know in the comments below. Fantastic figure, great sculpt, all the different heads. And interestingly enough, for those of you that remember from back in the day, the advert saying that you could find a monster with a star on its back. Star monsters have been found. I know people who own them. And the figure that is the star monster is a Jotun Troll. No other figure has been found with a star on its back. The mystery figure from the back of the box is a Jotun Troll. And actually they've been discovered in neon red and also in the purple, the original purple from the 4 standard colours. So what I would suggest is if you have this figure in any of the colours, check the back of it to make sure it's got a star on its back rather than the usual circle and number 20. So that's number 5. Moving on to number 4. Again, very difficult figure to come across. Lots of collectors struggle with this one and have to go either to eBay France or through private sales to find it, and that is the neon yellow Griffin. Now, as previously mentioned, this figure is often found on eBay France. I don't think I'd ever seen it on UK eBay or any other UK collectors selling it, but bizarrely enough, I was walking around a car boot sale several years ago. There was a blanket lying on the floor with a few figures spread out, and lo and behold, what did I see sitting there looking back at me? A neon yellow Griffin. Couldn't believe my eyes. Number one, to see a monster in my pocket at a car boot sale, you don't tend to see that often. But number two, this figure, one that I needed, one of the last few figures I needed back when I was trying to put my full set together in England, which really confused me because I presumed for many years that this would only ever show up in France, and I'd have to go looking on eBay France or speak to French collectors to get this. So the neon yellow Griffin is a 25-point monster, as you can see here. Once again, Griffin doesn't exist in the normal standard yellow, so that fits the bill that it should be hard to get in the neon yellow colour. But for some reason, it's just much harder to come across the neon yellow version than the neon red version of Griffin, because Griffin doesn't exist in standard red, so it's harder to get neon red, but you can pick those up more frequently than the neon yellow Griffin. A really tricky figure to get. So if you have got this one, that's brilliant. A sought after figure to help people complete their collections. So again, if you are interested in collecting or even selling the figures you've got, check out my Facebook page, Monster in My Pocket, the Mimp Market, or check out my Instagram page and you can contact me on there and I can answer any questions. I'm at Big Bertie on Instagram. Now, we've looked at number 5, the Jolton Troll in neon red. We've looked at number 4, the neon yellow Griffin. This is where it gets quite tricky in some ways. These last 3 figures, I really could have put them in any order. I think it's very difficult to say for definite that one is more uncommon than the other. But again, after talking to different collectors and thinking about my experiences, in the 3rd place, number 3 in terms of rarity, and some people could easily put this as number 1, but for me it's number 3, that is the neon yellow Great Beast. Now, personally, I've owned 3 of these figures, I think. Definitely 2. I think I owned a 3rd at one point, but I've definitely owned 2. This figure here is sort of the poster child in some ways for Monster in My Pocket. Most people who remember Monster in My Pocket from many years ago in the 90s, they will remember this figure. It's number 1 on the checklist. It's a 25-point monster, Great Beast. It's a brilliant sculpt, so it's a really popular figure. And in some ways, that's why I think I didn't put it at number 1. Lots of people remember this figure, and it comes to mind quicker than the last 2 figures that I've got in the number 1 and the number 2 spot in terms of rarity. But this neon yellow Great Beast, again, Great Beast in the original 4 standard colours, doesn't exist in red, and it doesn't exist in yellow. That's why neon red and neon yellow are hard to come by. But neon yellow in particular is much harder to get than neon red. Neon yellow, you really have to be looking on eBay France to stand a chance. One of the ones I picked up was definitely from eBay UK some years ago, but the first one, which is this actual one here that I bought, was from a French seller on eBay France. So you've got the 25-point monster. Now, another thing to mention about neon yellow figures, one of the reasons that they are quite expensive and one of the reasons they're quite sought after is because they stain very easily. Over the years, if people have stored them with a neon red figure and they've been sitting in the bag together for a long time, what can happen is the one colour, the neon red in particular, will bleed onto the neon yellow figure and stain it, and once that happens you really can't do anything to get it out. The figure is stained. Now, I'm fortunate to have a neon yellow Great Beast here that hasn't got any staining on. Again, I know that the lighting's not great through my iPad and you can't see the actual true colour of it. It looks very pale, but there's no staining on it. Those collectors that want a perfect figure might have to buy a couple of these, and as I said, you don't see them very often, so it's rarity matched up against the fact that people want a perfect figure, and it's not always easy to get this one in a perfect unstained version. So number 3 on my list is going to be neon yellow Great Beast. Incidentally, another colour that stains quite easily, thanks to neon red, is neon green. Neon green figures can get stained with neon red, and again, there's nothing you can do about that really. The figure is stained permanently. So I've take that out of the way. So after much deliberation on numbers 1 and 2, I'm going for the number 2 spot to be given to this, the neon red goblin. It's only a 10-point monster. It exists in all 4 standard colours. The 25 up to 48 number figures in the first series exist in all 4 colours. It's only the first 24 figures that don't exist in all 4 colours. Goblin exists in purple, red, yellow and olive green in the standard colours. But for some reason, this neon red goblin is incredibly difficult to find. This is the only one I've ever had in all the years I've been collecting. I know certain collectors who have looked for this figure for 2, maybe 3 years. I got really lucky finding mine through a forum. Other people have searched and searched and searched and haven't found it. It really is a figure that comes up on the radar of most big collectors when I ask them, what have you found difficult to find over the years? Neon red goblin. Only a 10-point monster, as I said earlier. Most people thought, and still think, and I'm not going to disagree with them, that some of the most uncommon and the rarest figures to find are 25 or 20-point monsters. But this guy here just doesn't show up that often. And I don't think I've ever seen one on eBay UK. I can't remember ever seeing one on eBay France. I got mine privately, as I said earlier, through a forum. But it really, really is a difficult figure to come by. So if you have neon red goblin, that's not the standard solid red. Let me just grab a figure that is red to show you the difference. There's a standard red witch from the very first release of Series 1. Then they released the neon colours, the hot colours as they called them, new hot colours. There's the neon red goblin there. Again, you can just see the difference. Standard red witch and the neon red goblin. It's just really, really difficult figure to find, so get rid of that. So number 2 on my list of rarities, this guy. If you've got one, you've got a really, really uncommon figure there. And again, please let me know in the comments if you have this figure. Where did you get it? Was it on eBay France? Has it always been in your collection from childhood? Just let me know any information. It's always useful, always helpful to myself and other collectors. So I'm going to take away neon red goblin from the number 2 spot. I'm going to go for what I believe, and many others believe, is the most uncommon and rarest of the Series 1 neons. A surprise to many, and that is neon green gremlin. There he is, neon green gremlin. He's not a 25-point monster, he's only a 10-point monster, similar to Medusa that I showed you earlier, and similar to the goblin. He's not a popular figure that people remember from when they were a child collecting one from a pocket. But for some strange reason, he is so difficult to come across. I searched and searched and searched to get this guy, and I ended up buying him from a German seller that I knew through a forum. It's the only one I've ever owned. It's one of the only ones I've ever seen. I don't recall ever seen one on eBay. Now, fair enough, I completed my full neon sets in about 2015, late 2015. I don't look on eBay like I used to for them, but a lot of the people that are in my Mint group or that I chat to at different points, they still actively search and they agree that this guy just doesn't show up. So you've got the neon green gremlin. Once again, because gremlin is in the back part of the series, so from figures number 25 up to 48, he was available in all colours, purple, yellow, red and olive green, yet for some reason he is really, really difficult to find. And if I just quickly show you a standard colour olive green figure next to it there, the beast, you can see the difference. Here's the standard original release olive green, and here's the neon green of the gremlin. this guy, if you've got him in your collection, please let me know, where did you find him? I'll be really shocked if somebody truthfully comments to say that they've had one of these for 20 plus years and they got it from childhood in this country. I've never seen one. Many collectors would agree that they haven't seen one and might still be looking for one. But in terms of what I would say, and in terms of others sharing their experiences, this guy is one of the most difficult to come across. That's why I'm giving him the #1 spot. Now, if you don't agree with any of the ones I've said, please let me know. If you do agree, also let me know in the comments below. But I felt I wanted to put a number on each of those rather than just lumping them all together. So if we do a recap, in 5th position we had Neon Red Jotun Troll there. Then in the 4th position we moved on to Neon Yellow Griffin there. Then after that we went to Neon Yellow Great Beast there. In the 2nd place position we went to Neon Red Goblin there. And in the final position I gave it to Neon Green Gremlin. And as you can see, as I mentioned earlier about staining, mine has got a little neon red stain on the foot and a little neon red stain just on the tip of his nose there. Now I'd love to have a figure without staining, but to try and find another one of these is just too difficult. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy to keep that in my collection. And again, let me know your thoughts on the top 5 I've given, or any others that you feel should be given a ranking either in the top 5 or top 10, or just anything that you've found difficult to get over the years. Okay, so thanks for watching, and remember to check out my Facebook group, Monster Run Pocket, The Mint Market. Thanks, bye.